Well, hello there and welcome to all Americans here and all the ships at seas coming to you from America. This is the DMZ, well, half of it coming from me.
That's
This is
true.
the DMZ America Podcast. It is Thursday, August 10th. I am Scott Stantis coming to you from the right.
And I'm Ted Rall coming to you from the left.
And can we say where you are?
In my verdant splendor. I am in northern Newfoundland, or Newfoundland, as people pronounce it here.
Yeah, how do they pronounce it? Because I saw the play. There's a play about
9/11
and Gander.
That happened. I talked just last night. I talked to a guy who was in the Navy, and he helped deal with some of the 9/11 American 9/11 people who were stranded here. There were thousands of them. There were 40 planes full of people.
Yeah.
And he said that there were a lot of major emergencies that we don't think about. Like, for example, people didn't have their medication. And
Right.
it was like, well, what's it called? I don't really know. I just take it. So if I don't get it in half an hour, I might be. Or there were children traveling alone. And
Germans. Lots of Germans.
Yeah, lots of people. Yeah, lots of people who couldn't speak the language, which is French or English here. So yeah, it was a problem.
Yeah, no, it's a great musical. If you ever see it, Come From Away, it's one of my favorites. My brother actually hosts. I don't know if you know this. We're probably the straightest gay people you know, or the gayest straight people, because he hosts a radio show in Madison, Wisconsin called Better Living Through Show Tunes.
Oh, that is not straight. No.
But I love show tunes too. I just love them. And
I went through a little period like that. I explored my sexuality. And
the English schoolboy phase, wasn't it?
I listened. I liked Hair and Pirates of Penzance, and yeah.
I was in the Gilbert and Sullivan plays. Will this surprise you? Madison has a Gilbert and Sullivan theater company, and I was in many productions.
Did the Republican Party never found out about that? I hope.
Well, that's why they've revoked my card. Yeah, they said, you were in Ruthergore? Which role? Well, so Edmonton the Third. You're so gone. Now, if you were Yum Yum in the Mikado, we can live with that. Anyway, so on to other happier notes in the news. The Ecuadorian presidential candidate was assassinated yesterday.
Oops. Well, the thing is, what I call that? Election simplification. Well, I guess you could call that election interference. That's
it. I'm going to totally butcher his name. Fernando Villavicencio was the opposition candidate. He was campaigning on the platform that drug lords were taking over the country and that he was going to prevent this.
Yeah, I wonder who killed him.
Yeah, apparently the drug lords took umbrage. It was a very.
Was he going to win, or was he favored, or was he?
It sounds like not like it was still but he, who knows? That's why we have elections. But it definitely sounds like the drug lords, and I hate to say it like this, Ted, but it was a very clean, efficient assassination.
Okay, well, honestly, better to die that way than like President Garfield over, what was it, weeks?
Oh, months. He died. It took all summer, and in the autopsy they found it's so awful. The infection had literally started worming its way through his body, and that's what eventually killed him.
And his doctors were idiots, basically.
Well, the doctor who appointed himself his doctor. It's a great story. There's a book. It's called, oh gosh, what's it called? Something. Future of the Republic, but it's the assassination of Garfield and how screwed up it was. Anyway, so getting back to Ecuador, and the question I think before us, Ted, is bigger than Ecuador, because Americans will not give a crap about this. They will not care for more than it'll be on NPR this morning, and then those people will care, but then the rest of the world will not care. But why I care about this is twofold. But the biggest question for me is this, Ted. Are we entering like dark waters here? I mean, is democracy over? It just seems like a pallor has fallen over it. Remember in the 90s again, I'm just sound so friggin' old here, but remember in the 90s, in the uprising, culminating in the uprising in China, and Tiananmen Square uprisings, and they hoisted the goddess of freedom statue, and we're thinking, holy shit, democracy is sweeping the globe.
I didn't think that, just so you know. When Tiananmen Square broke down, I knew exactly what was going to happen, and if anything, less happened than I assumed would happen. I thought they would go in there and kill all of them. They didn't kill all of them. Some of them ended up in camps.
And got re-educated. See, free education, socialism works.
Indeed.
So, okay. And in point of fact, I mean, we have one of our listeners. I'm not sure if you look at the comments online, Ted, but one of our listeners was complaining that I always say, you're right, Ted. So I'm going to do.
I mean, you're trying to be truthful, so
Yeah, but in this instance, again, I remember you writing about that, and I was so pissed off at you. And I think I told you at the time, how can you be against this? Well, I'm not against it. It's just not going to work. I go, but that's by saying it out loud. And then I started to hear what I was saying, what words were actually tumbling from my mouth.
Yeah, everybody does that. That's not a left or right thing. I was giving a speech before the 2004 election on San Juan Island off the coast of Washington State, and a beautiful place. And it was a big crowd. And during the Q&A, someone asked me who I thought was going to win. And I said, Bush. And people started booing me. And I was like, I'm not a wizard. I don't make anything happen. You didn't ask me what I wish would happen. I wish John Kerry would win. Actually, I wish at that time that John Edwards or Ralph Nader would win. But it was like I knew George W. Bush was going to be reelected. And it's the same thing here. It's not like I didn't have, I mean, look, I have to say, I don't really want to see the Chinese communist experiment die, but on the other hand, it has died. It died with Deng Xiaoping in the 70s. And so now what you have is this, China is a capitalist society with really cool communist posters. That's it. And so it is absolutely not a socialist state. I am sad that the Soviet Union collapsed, that the socialist experiment died, but I didn't want those people to. I understand what the kids wanted in Tiananmen Square. They were naive and stupid. They, history tells us what it takes to impose regime change on China, and we saw that from 1911 to 1949. And here, it takes a lot more than a bunch of derps in a square singing songs.
Derps in a square. Okay, that's a band name. Dibs. Mine. I got it.
Done for your next.
Ladies and gentlemen, next live is Derps in a square.
People will kill them. They will assassinate them, just like the president of Ecuador. So, I mean, to get to your point, I mean, before we started recording this, you sort of said, well, you teed this topic as saying up, Scott, that, saying up, what am I talking? That's a saying that, asking the question, are we in a dark cycle when it comes to representative democracies? And I mean, I think the answer is yes and no. I mean, on the one hand, we don't make the places that don't have crazy events like this are not making the news. I mean, there's no crisis, as far as I know, no political crisis in Belgium or Uruguay or,
No, but right-wing totalitarian parties or parties that have totalitarian leanings, like in France, Le Pen in the polls was ahead of Macron.
Yeah, if the election were tomorrow, she would win.
Which is terrifying.
But I think we are going through a cycle where people, voters are losing faith in the ability of representative democracy to address their needs to a significant extent. And they're turning towards I would say, democratic light solutions, like using your elections, your vote to vote in authoritarian right wingers, like we saw, like in Hungary and places like that.
Well, Turkey.
With Erdogan. And then, but at the same time, so you always kind of have like, like right now you have Imran Khan in Pakistan has just been imprisoned. There's all sorts of, there's always a churn. But right now, I can't help but focus on our particular moment of crisis here, where you have the two likely presidential nominees in our country, which has outsized political and economic and military influence around the world to a huge extent. Let's not forget the United States produces more weapons than the next 10 arms producers combined, and they are big themselves. Those other ones, like France and Russia and China, make a lot of weapons.
Well,
so
Germany
the point is,
makes a ton.
Yeah, so I mean, it's crazy. So the point is that, and the Brits do too. So the fact that we have Biden and Trump, Trump, the legal situation, and now Biden, the legal situation, and certainly the political situation where he very well could be impeached. I mean, whatever you think of like whether Trump is going to be convicted or not, or whether this is fair, or whether you believe that the charges are really serious or not, none of that is really important. The point is that in both cases, you have men who you can credibly ascribe a lot of contempt towards. You don't. This is not a candidacy like George H.W. Bush versus Michael Dukakis, where you're like, okay, you don't like if you like one more than the other, you vote for them. The end. But you don't think this person, the one or both candidates, I would say both in this case, is really like one of the worst people this country has ever produced. They're in the bottom 1%. Biden and Trump they're morally despicable, disgusting.
But Biden loves his dogs.
And his dogs love to bite people. But the thing is, I mean, yeah, Biden doesn't, and he sort of loves his grandchildren. Ish.
Most of them. So come on.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So go on. I'm sorry.
My point is that, like, I mean, you just this country has never you had like people who were deeply complicated figures like FDR, who you had a lot of very positive, very positive traits, but also some worrisome traits. I mean, let's face it, like as candidates, as being in terms of charisma or morals or likability or seeming to care about the problems of people like you and me, these guys fail. It's like it's a straight F report card, really, for both of them. And that is extraordinary. I mean, we can all see this. We're all heading into the abyss. And we can't do it yet. We can't do anything about it. We can't turn this around. That to me screams dysfunctional, broken system. Like when everybody with 330 million people know they're heading over the abyss, and they can't stop it.
Yeah.
Even though we were all just helpless. That means the system is broken. It doesn't mean we as a people are broken. But
no, I think faith in it. You touched on it in what you just said. You touched on, and it hit me between the eyes, is that indeed the faith in the system is what's under attack right now. Not under attack, quite frankly, it's falling under its own hubris because it hasn't elevated the people. It did for a while when you had the growth of the middle class in America. But now you have the status, you have not the status, but you have the Democratic Party has totally thrown in the towel, especially the Clintons started this and accelerated it and codified this, that the Democratic Party no longer cares. It doesn't even care about the interests of the working class, Ted. It doesn't even care about that, Ohio is hollowed out. Well, what does that mean? Well, Ohio finally, which was a kind of, I'm not sure how you can be a dependable purple state, but it was dependably purple. It was a swing state.
Well, it was the ultimate bellwether state.
Now it's a red state. Why? Because they finally woke up. The union leaders who no longer have a job to be unionized around are saying these assholes didn't do anything to protect us. They didn't do anything to protect our interests.
Are you kidding? They threw them. It was the opposite. They threw them under the bus. I mean, NAFTA would never have passed under George H.W. Bush. I mean, he wanted to. He knew he didn't have the votes. Republicans couldn't get NAFTA through. It took Bill Clinton to get NAFTA through. And Ohioans know that. They haven't forgotten. And that's how they lost the state. And it was like, there was no attempt whatsoever to do anything to say, okay, all right, well, we're deindustrializing this country. We're going to ship these manufacturing jobs overseas, and somehow that's going to work out for us. I'm not sure how, but don't worry. We're going to get you guys job training programs. We're going to figure out how to we'll give you stipends to figure this out until we get through to the other side. There was no sense, like, at least imperfectly, I've got to give Biden credit for it. During the pandemic, it was kind of like, well, the whole government is shutting down the economy. Everybody's got to stay home. But Trump, I have to give him credit too, Trump and then Biden said, okay, we're going to throw trillions of dollars into the economy all at once. We're not going to have a lot of means testing because we don't have time for that. And they were right about that. And we're just going to do this, and we're going to, keep the economy on life support until we get to the other side of however long this takes. And that, in my view, you can quibble with the execution, but that was the right thing to do. They didn't do that in like when the Rust Belt got deindustrialized. They didn't tell these people, yeah, we're killing you with our trade policies. But don't worry, we're gonna, we'll send you some care packages to get you through. It was just like, it sucks to be you.
Wow, you should move. Florida is beautiful this time of year.
Yeah, exactly.
And they need service industry jobs. So, asking that guy if he needs a refresh on his drink by the pool is the same as a job that can pay for a house and a car in Ohio. I think we've actually nailed it. So belief in the institutions, now that's steamrolls, right? I mean, that's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger in terms of we don't trust the Justice Department anymore. We don't trust schools anymore. We don't trust.
Well, you can't. You can't trust the Justice Department. You can't trust the schools. I mean, here's the thing, Scott. I mean, if you think about what are the let's just say, like, why don't you personally tell me your 3 things that keep you up at night that politicians might be able to help you with? And I'll tell you mine. And I bet you none of those is something that that either the Democrats or the Republicans or the system writ large is actually trying to address right now.
Oh, God, 3. I can tell you, number 1 is just to actually have an actual level playing field. That is that, you don't have the government doesn't pick winners or losers. And that seems to be its function nowadays. That's one. Personal freedoms.
That's not even viewed as a problem.
No, I know. Well, I know.
So you can't solve something that's not viewed as a problem. Yeah.
Okay. Second one is personal freedoms. You have a country, we live in a country now where 63% in the recent polls said that they don't believe in freedom of speech, like absolute freedom of speech. That scares the living bejesus out of me. And I bet the real number is higher than that. Yeah, I mean, they believe in defending their speech,
right? But not the free speech of people with whom they disagree, who are perverts or racists or whatever.
Yeah, or just third-party candidates. I mean, how many of our Democratic friends want to shut down West? Cornel West, who's now the candidate for the Green Party, who I think is going to be a terrific candidate, by the way.
Yeah, and I think he's at, I guess, 3%, but I think he's going to do pretty well. I think he's an attractive what's your candidate. Number? I say if unless he fucks up somehow, I would say he could get 12 to 15% of the vote. I think he'll get up there in the polls. What would be interesting is will he get high enough to get into the debates? The debate now, and that's another thing. I don't think he will. I think you need to. They will figure out. They'll figure out some poll that he's not doing well in or something. Not just that, they'll do to him what Hillary's campaign did to Gary Johnson, the Libertarian candidate in 2016, who was gaining some real traction back then, and he was around 15%. When he had, he slipped up, and the reporter, do you remember, said, what do you think about what happened in Aleppo? He goes, what's Aleppo?
and everybody jumped down his throat. It was just like, how many fuck ups did Hillary have a day? How many fuck ups did Trump
she was
have?
under heavy fire on that tarmac in Bosnia.
Well, that's right. And that's PTSD from, a thing that never actually happened.
Well, that's the worst kind of PTSD.
So we're sliding into dark times, folks, dark times. But you know what? There's brightness at the end of that tunnel, because the DMZ America podcast will be back after a very short break, and you'll have more of us. We're only going to have 2 segments today. Ted has to catch a ferry. Now, he swears that that's not metaphor.
Ferry.
Okay, you're throwing spelling at me, Ted. Really? You know me better than this. You're listening to the DMZ America podcast. I'm Scott Stantis, coming to you from the right.
And I'm Ted Rall, coming to you from the left.
And we will be back shortly. Please stick around.